Another Boeing whistleblower has died. What a weird coincidence that is, right? Two Boeing whistleblowers dying under mysterious circumstances back to back in a matter of only 2 months? Man, that's peculiar, isn't it? Must just be really bad RNG. No reason to investigate that any further, I'm sure. So for those that don't know, being a Boeing whistleblower is more detrimental to your health than smoking cigarettes. At least the cigarettes kill you slowly over a period of years, whereas being a Boeing whistleblower kills you almost immediately. Like, skydiving without a parachute is safer for you than blowing the whistle on Boeing and all of their shadiness. So, a month ago, there was a Boeing whistleblower named John Barnett who was found dead with apparent self-inflicted gunshot wounds, the timing of which was really interesting considering he was at the tail end of an extremely important lawsuit that he was engaged in with Boeing. And according to everyone that knew him, he was extremely excited to be done with that lawsuit, and in fact, shortly before he was found dead, he'd actually told people that if he does turn up dead, just know he didn't do it to himself. Probably circumstantial evidence, that probably doesn't mean anything. Just don't think too hard and accept the shit that they feed you with the official story that he just decided while sitting in his truck to blow his goddamn brains out. That makes a lot of sense here. I stand by my assessment that John Barnett was assassinated by Boeing. I don't believe it's Boeing themselves, but I believe it's a couple high-ranking members within Boeing that are taking matters into their own hands and doing these things. It's the only explanation that makes any level of sense to this. So I made a whole video breaking down the evidence in the John Barnett case, as well as an entire Red Thread episode dedicated to uncovering all of the shadiness and corruption within Boeing. That company is fucked. Jackson, Windigoon, and myself went through the entire history of Boeing, and they are so corrupt it would make Umbrella Corporation blush at how evil Boeing is. It is shocking. So I really do think that these two whistleblowers were the victims of some kind of assassination. So let's talk about the most recent whistleblower. His name is Joshua Dean. I learned about it last night while playing Crab Souls, and well, it's not the real name of the game. The name of the game is Another Crab's Treasure, and it's a banger. But while playing this game, chat told me that another Boeing whistleblower had just turned up dead, and I thought they were memeing. And it turns out they weren't. They were actually telling the truth. Oh. Do you see the second Boeing whistleblower got murked? No shot the other whistleblower's dead. No shot. It's real? No. No, I don't believe that. Hold on, I'm looking that shit up right now. No! What? What? It's just in plain sight. Yeah, whistleblower Josh Dean of Boeing supplier Spirit Aerosystems has died. What? Another Boeing whistleblower is dead. 6 hours ago, yeah. Joshua Dean, a former quality auditor at Boeing supplier Spirit Aerosystems and one of the first whistleblowers to allege Spirit leadership had ignored manufacturing defects on the 737 MAX, died Tuesday morning after a struggle with a sudden, fast-spreading infection. Oh, that's interesting. This time it wasn't bullet to the head? They're getting creative with their assassinations. That's crazy. This is the most dangerous thing you can be as a Boeing whistleblower. That's more dangerous than being like a fucking volcano lava taste tester. This shit, it's just in plain sight. His entire family stated he was healthy until after he blew the whistle. He lived a very healthy lifestyle and the illness was sudden and unexpected. Yeah, he contracted that. Stick it to the moniosis from Boeing. Joshua Dean was a quality auditor at Boeing supplier Spirit Aerosystems and was among the first whistleblowers to accuse Spirit leadership of ignoring defects on the 737 MAX, and he died shortly after contracting influenza B, MRSA, and then developing pneumonia. Now, for those that are unaware, Boeing has a history of just ignoring safety precautions and just hiding things. So in the previous case with John Barnett, we actually learned quite a few alarming things, such as there were times where scrap metal was used for Boeing planes in order to meet deadlines. They'd also keep things off the books as much as possible. They even used Dawn dish soap as a lubricant for the aircraft door seals at one point. Then they also used hotel key cards and wet cheesecloths to perform maintenance. Just an absolute smorgasbord of malpractice, at least in my perspective here. Of course, I'm not an aircraft specialist, but using Dawn dish soap and hotel key cards, That doesn't really seem like textbook protocol there. That sounds like something you'd read on WikiHow for a DIY aircraft maintenance at your own home for like an RC aircraft, not a fucking Boeing. So these gentlemen came forward to try and alert the public about what Boeing's been doing, or rather not doing, that they should be, and they've both paid the ultimate price for it. In my eyes, they're heroes for the work they've tried to do here. So, being a Boeing whistleblower is basically like just taking a cyanide capsule at this point, it seems. It's just more of a matter of when, not if, you turn up dead, I suppose. Let's go deeper into the case of Joshua Dean here, because this one seems so blatant. His mother and stepfather described him as a health nut who rarely drank and attended church regularly. He started feeling sick around 2 weeks ago. He stayed home from work for a couple days, but things got worse. Sunday, April 21st, is when his mother got a call from him that he was really sick, having trouble breathing, and he went to immediate care, and they told him he had strep throat. She went to check on her son and telling him to call her if he felt worse, and he did call her a couple hours later and said that he was going to the emergency room and that he was scared because they found something in his lungs. He tested positive for influenza B, he tested positive for MRSA, he had pneumonia, his lungs were completely filled up, and from there he just went downhill. This was a stunning turn of events for Dean and his family because he was described as someone who was very healthy. He went to the gym, ran nearly every day, and was very careful about his diet. Quote, "This was his first time ever in a hospital. He didn't even have a doctor because he was never sick. But within days, his kidneys gave out and he was relying on an ECMO life support machine to do the work of his heart and lungs. The night before Dean died, Green said medical staff in Oklahoma did a bronchoscopy on his lungs. The doctor said he'd never seen anything like it before in his life. His lungs were just totally gummed up and like a mesh over them. Unfortunately, it sounds like Dean came down with a severe case of Boeing whistleblower lung, which is a serious medical condition that only affects Boeing whistleblowers in particular. It makes coal miners' lungs look clean in comparison. So I'm not surprised that this was the doctor's first time seeing anything like this, because typically a Boeing whistleblower doesn't even survive long enough to make it to the hospital in one piece. This fucking company is rotten to the core. Green says she asked for an autopsy to determine exactly what killed her son, and results will likely take months. We're not sure what he died of, she said. We know that he had a bunch of viruses, but we don't know if someone did something to him or did he just get real sick. In my unprofessional opinion, I think someone did something to him. I think the infection he contracted was Boeing hitman disease. I think he was poisoned. This is someone that took their health extremely seriously, and only a short period of time after coming forward with information about Boeing's negligent practices does he get extremely sick and then die, all in a short span of time, with something that doctors had never even seen happen before. That's a little suspicious. And this is the second whistleblower that has died under mysterious circumstances in 2 months. Wow, what a crazy coincidence. To me, this feels like someone or a group of people within Boeing is taking matters into their own hands and making an example out of these whistleblowers, because Boeing is a massive company with so many people in it. And thus, there's a lot of people that are privy to all of the shady shit that they've been doing over the past couple of decades. So, by sending this message, not so subtly, that whistleblowers don't have a long life expectancy, it makes people afraid to come forward with their own accounts. It makes more whistleblowers afraid to come forward. And I think that's the goal with all of it. That, at least in my opinion. Like I said, we did a full dive on Boeing for that Red Thread episode, and this company has been corrupt for a long time. I would not put it past them to do something like this. Maybe not the company as a whole, but at least a couple of bad actors within the company, at the very least. Now let's get into some of the things that Dean was alleging. So he had a degree in engineering, and he took his first job at Spirit in 2019, but was let go amid the layoffs during the pandemic. He then returned to work for the company as a quality auditor. He took the job very seriously and grew increasingly frustrated with what he described as a culture of not counting defects correctly, which is very commonplace when it comes to this. During 2 interviews in January, Dean said that Spirit pressured employees not to report defects in order to get planes out of the factory faster. This is something that John Barnett also said. Now, I'm not saying they don't want you to go out there and inspect a job. You know they do. But if you make too much trouble, you will get the Josh treatment. You will get what happened to me.
That's what Dean told NPR. Dean was fired in April of last year in retaliation, he said, for flagging improperly drilled holes in fuselages. I think they were sending out a message to anybody else, Dean said. If you are too loud, we will silence you. Dean described what he saw while working for Spirit in a deposition for a lawsuit filed by the company's shareholders who accused the company of misleading investors by attempting to conceal excessive numbers of defects at the Kansas factory. He was not a plaintiff in the case. In the shareholder lawsuit, Dean said he flagged a significant defect, misdrilled holes in the AFT pressure bulkhead of the 737 MAX fuselages months before he was fired. His deposition lays out a series of pivotal dates. October 2022. In his auditor role, Dean realizes Spirit workers misdrilled holes on the 737 MAX AFT pressure bulkhead, representing a potential threat to maintaining cabin pressure during flight. The lawsuit accuses the company of concealing the problem. April 13, 2023. Boeing publicly reveals learning of a separate defect related to the tail fin fittings on the certain 737 MAX aircraft. Spirit then confirms that defect. April 26, 2023. Spirit fires Dean, saying he failed to flag the tail fin issue. In his testimony, Dean said he told the company officials that he might have missed the tail fin defect because he had just discovered the problem with the bulkheads he inspected and was focused on that. August 23, 2023. Boeing announces it has found fastener holes in the AFT pressure bulkhead on certain 737 MAX airplanes that don't match its specifications, resulting in snowmen due to the multiple holes' elongated shape. It's the problem Dean flagged 10 months earlier. On the same day, Spirit releases a statement acknowledging the issue. The shareholder lawsuit accuses Spirit of concealing the bulkhead defect not only from investors, but also apparently from Boeing. It's important to note that Boeing is currently in talks to acquire Spirit altogether, and in the interview with NPR, Joshua Dean predicted it would be difficult to replace the experienced workforce that Spirit lost during the pandemic. The mechanics aren't as experienced, neither are the inspectors. We've just lost that. He then showed a little bit of optimism for the new CEO who was taking over, saying that he has the chance to be the new sheriff in town, and he closes by saying, "We need to make sure that there is no retaliation or intimidation. This culture of, you're too loud, you'll be moved or silenced, that's got to go." Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that culture went anywhere. In fact, they are silencing people in the biggest possible way, by making it so they can never speak again because they're dead. That is what it seems like to me. This is a problem that runs so deep with Boeing. It's in Spirit, their supplier, and Boeing itself. This is unacceptable. Like, the planes are in terrible condition. There's problems almost every single day with Boeing flights malfunctioning and having all kinds, like oodles and oodles of issues. It really feels like it's only a matter of time before a fatal incident occurs with one of Boeing's aircrafts that would have been entirely preventable if they actually just followed their own safety protocol and actually listened to the quality auditors and the people that are actually supposed to be performing maintenance on these things. It's so baffling to me that we've reached this point where they're so focused on just pumping shit out to meet deadlines that they don't really care if it's put together well. These are things that hold thousands of people's lives daily, and they're just shipping it out as cheaply and as fastly as possible while hiding as many of the defects as they can for as long as they can. That is frightening. Fucking frightening. And the people that are speaking out about it seem to be in an extraordinary amount of danger for some reason. Super weird how two whistleblowers just turn up dead under really interesting circumstances so close together. It just, the whole thing reeks of corruption. My heart breaks for the family and friends of John Barnett and Joshua Dean. Like I said, I really do view them as heroes. Whistleblowers are extremely important. To hold these companies accountable and to try and do the right thing is not easy. As that headline said, it takes tremendous courage. You take a huge risk. And unfortunately for these two, it seems like that risk cost them everything. It's super sad. And I really think that it's just right there in plain sight that Boeing has some kind of hand in it. It's fucking sickening. I think Boeing is an evil company. I think Spirit is an evil company. Like, this is just, it's craziness. It's fucking horrifying. So I want to talk about this a little bit. That's it. So yeah. There's not many things in life that I'm afraid of. I think my fears are pretty reasonable, not necessarily odd. Like the fear of dying, or being stuck out in open water with no way out, or something being located on the top shelf that I have to struggle to reach.
But one fear that I do have that I actually get ridiculed for, and it's not without, like, I understand why, is my fear of flying. I have a very intense phobia of planes. I don't have a fear of heights, it's just being on a plane. You don't need to spit all the facts at me. I know all the statistics. It's the safest form of travel. Really, it's the safest thing humans do on a regular basis. It's probably more safe than me sitting in this chair right now. I get all of that. I know it's an irrational fear, but I can't shake it. It's just deep-seated. And I've flown 10, 15 times across the 29 years of my life, and every single time it's an anxiety-inducing, miserable experience. I just absolutely despise it. Recently, I've started to feel kind of vindicated in this fear, though. Whereas before, I was made the fool. People, painted me as a clown for being afraid of flying. They couldn't wrap their head around why I'd be afraid of it. Now there's been a lot of people coming over to my side over here because Boeing's been in some hot water. Their planes have just been falling apart in the skies, like the door blowing off, like all kinds of terrible things happening with Boeing's aircrafts. It's been aviation apocalypse for that company. And there was a Boeing whistleblower who was in an active lawsuit with Boeing who turned up dead under very peculiar circumstances. And now Boeing's CEO as well as other top executives are stepping down from the company, so it's just been this septic tank exploding with shit spraying everywhere here. A lot is going on behind the scenes at Boeing, and it's all very odd. Now, as most of you know, I run a show called Red Thread with Jackson and Windigoon, where we dive into cryptids, conspiracies, cults, and cold cases, and we recently tackled the Boeing whistleblower conspiracy, which is about the Boeing whistleblower not taking his own life, but actually being murdered by Boeing for revealing the Krabby Patty secret formula to their aircrafts, which is basically scrap metal. He was talking about all of these awful safety violations and oversights for their aircrafts where they were knowingly putting scrap metal onto their planes. They weren't following protocol. They were doing a lot of shady things, keeping a lot of things off the books on purpose to meet production deadlines. He was a higher up in Boeing when it comes to their aircraft safety and making sure everything functions properly. And he was really concerned and disappointed with how Boeing was handling things. So he started to reveal this information, break the magician's code, and now he's no longer with us. And the circumstances around his death are very odd. So I just wanted to talk about this and show you clips from that Red Thread episode because since a lot of you know I'm afraid of flying, I've been asked a lot about my opinion on Boeing and the whistleblower situation and all of that. And it's one that I've been paying extremely close attention to and following every step of the way. So here's all the Boeing whistleblower conspiracy information as well as my take on all of it. To really start picking apart the problems with Boeing, I think it's important to give a little bit of a history lesson behind them, so I'm going to play this clip from the Red Thread episode that kind of sets the stage for why everything changed so quickly for Boeing after a merger gone wrong with a fucking parasitic infestation that took over the company from the inside out. So, 1997, Boeing acquired McDonnell Douglas, which is now often seen as a misaligned merger. The merger was worth over $13 billion. McDonnell Douglas had found it increasingly harder and harder to compete with Boeing and Airbus, lacking resources to be able to work on new product development, and this merger was Douglas's way out of the industry. At the time, Boeing had an engineering-first ethic which was quickly overpowered after this change by McDonnell Douglas's more profit, money-making mindset. So you can see where the holes start to show here. And this is something that even in recent articles is mentioned quite a bit.
Well, it was a massive merger at the time. McDonnell Douglas had a significantly different ethos and organizational structure behind the scenes, which kind of explains probably why they were in trouble in the first place. Because
you would think
Boeing succeeded over them because they put technological innovation ahead of business in most senses. I mean, they were still a profitable business, don't get me wrong, but they definitely focused a lot on the engineering side of things, engineering excellence. And then somehow they merge with McDonnell Douglas, and McDonnell Douglas is the one that's seen steering the ship from then on. That has never made sense to me. Boeing was the more profitable, more healthy company, and they kind of saved McDonnell Douglas in a way by merging with them, and then McDonnell Douglas kind of infects the company. It's never made sense to me.
I don't even think it's necessarily a product of the merger. It's a product of the time where everything became more profit driven. So McDonnell Douglas's like ethos of money making first probably is what was prevalent,
one
not so
out.
much their structure.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So this is a very cool name. Harry Stonecipher, the Boeing CEO at the time of the merger.
Sounds like a
was
Bond
also-
villain.
I know it does
Yeah.
sound like a Bond villain.
It's so cool. I love that name. I wish my last name was Stonecipher. It's so fucking
Yeah.
sick.
That's
It's
an
unfair.
anime name. So he was determined to change the idea of the company from engineering firm to a proper business. Tens of thousands of jobs were cut, and Boeing moved from Seattle to Chicago in 2001. This was done to remove the Strategy Council of Business from being directly associated with other units of the company, thus allowing them to focus more on business decisions and long-term strategy plans without meddling from people actually building the planes. With this drastic change in the company, where now it was all about money making first, print as many doubloons as possible, Mr. Krabs is running Boeing, they started to throw safety and quality to the wayside, at least according to the whistleblower and a lot of the things that were going on behind the scenes that were so shady. Now I want to continue setting the stage here because the problems for Boeing really started to escalate over the last decade or so. Boeing created the Maneuvering Characteristic Augmentation System, or MCAS, which is now an infamous system, which I'm sure we're going to talk about very soon. It's described as one of their biggest and most fatal mistakes. It was designed to be a flight stabilizing software that would automatically adjust the aircraft's flight controls under certain flight conditions, but Boeing refrained from telling many people about this system, including the pilots of the aircraft itself.
What could go wrong, right?
Whoa! What?
So, MCAS obtained its data from aircraft's angle of attack, the AOA sensor, which is used to measure the angle between the aircraft's relative wind and its longitudinal axis. This in turn would help MCAS determine if the plane is at risk of stalling, then triggering corrective actions. If by any chance the information relayed from the AOA sensors were wrong or the sensors were faulty, the MCAS system could erroneously send the plane into a fateful nosedive. This is exactly what happened on the Lions Air Flight 310 in 2008 and the Ethiopian Airways Flight 302 in 2019. Tragically, everyone on board both flights died.
Just for audio listeners, Charlie meant to say 2018 then. There wasn't a 10-year difference. Yeah, you said
what did I say?
2008. 2008.
Oh, sorry. I meant 2018.
Yeah. So anyone who was around at that time period though remembers when those two crashes happened because they were enormous in the news. It caused Boeing to ground all the flights. Hundreds of people died. It was a very tragic event.
Oh man!
They also recalled the 737 MAX in response as well, if I remember correctly. They took the 737 MAX out of production for a little while, and I believe airports refused to fly them.
Yeah, for a 2-year period, I think. Yeah.
So the sensor read data wrong and like pulled against the pilot to adjust, which caused a crash.
So the AOA, the angle of attack sensor, which is a sensor on the peripheral, like the outside of the aircraft itself, could feed incorrect data to the MCAS system in certain situations, and then the MCAS system would operate on that incorrect information and essentially pull the plane.
Was there no way to override it? You would think,
There was.
But since they didn't train the pilots on it and the pilots weren't aware of it, they didn't know they could override that system.
Dude.
So it just,
as we're going to get into, the reason as to why the pilots weren't educated about this is so infuriatingly greedy.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
So Boeing had insisted to airlines that the pilots did not need any additional training to fly the new aircraft, and even more damning, all mentions of MCAS were removed from the operations manual that the pilots relied on. As Boeing was in a losing race against Airbus, the 737 MAX needed to fly exactly like the 737, so that pilots didn't have to go through new simulator training for certification.
And remember, just real quick, I didn't write this, but remember that it didn't fly exactly like the previous 737 because the engines were more forward on the plane, creating that tilt. So because of that, that's why they introduced the MCAS to offset that, so that it would fly as close to the 737 as possible.
You make a system that makes it feel like the old one.
Exactly,
but
so they can
accommodate for when that system doesn't work correctly. I see.
Yeah.
Training the pilots would have taken a lot of extra time, money, and would be unattractive to potential airline customers. MCAS was the supposed solution so that in certain very specific situations, it would slightly adjust the aircraft to correct its flight position to create a more similar flying experience akin to the previous model that the pilots were used to. However, when this happened in the real world, pilots and MCAS were in a sort of fight with each other for controls, with pilots trimming the aircraft manually and then MCAS trimming it again, and this cycle continuing with the pilot unaware that there was a hidden system essentially acting against them. After the tragedies of the Lions Air and Ethiopian airline crashes, Boeing suffered a huge financial loss. In 2022 and 2023, they paid out over $1 billion to 737 MAX customers. They were charged with fraud as well as conspiracy and entered an agreement with the Department of Justice with the agreement that they were to pay over $2.5 billion. They also grounded the 737 MAX for nearly 2 years, with regulators conducting investigations, a move costing Boeing around $20 billion in fees and fines.
So they didn't end up making more money in the first place. They made these decisions to make more money, and now they've lost over $20 billion, which I'm not sure how much that is in the grand scheme.
They have
of
a
things.
net worth of $109 billion. So
that is actually substantial. Then
the negative publicity just continues to accumulate day by day. For example, one United Airlines Boeing 777 experienced a wheel loss during takeoff. Another United Airlines aircraft slid off the runway upon landing due to the landing gear malfunctioning. There's been multiple instances of flames shooting out of engines that have been reported. Certifications have reportedly been falsified. Debris has been discovered near electrical wiring. Loose parts have been found in door panels. Components from scrap bins have allegedly been reused in installations and constructions of planes themselves. A Boeing 777 was forced to land after hydraulic fluid was leaking during takeoff. Additionally, engineers have been outsourced for low wages, with some employees reportedly being paid as low as $9.50 an hour, and the FAA criticized Boeing's safety procedures as inadequate. And there's so many more that Jackson could have pulled from. Like 2 days ago, a Boeing flight engine blew up, caught fire, and they had to emergency land. A week ago, this one I think a lot of you heard, the door blew off of a plane mid-flight.
Yep.
that's the one I focus on. Yeah.
Oh, so you have it right here. So, most recently, Friday, January 5th, 171 passengers and 6 crew members were aboard the Alaskan Airline Flight 1282 on a Boeing 737 MAX. They departed from Portland at 5:07 p.m. with no signs of stress or worry from the captains or flight staff. However, minutes later, as the plane reached an altitude of 16,000 feet, a loud bang was heard through the aircraft. A hidden emergency door and its cover, known as a door plug, was suddenly sucked out from the aircraft, leaving a giant hole in its wake. The change in pressure was so strong that if passengers were sitting in the seats directly at the impacted door, they would most certainly have been jettisoned. Mobile phones were ripped out of hands, a t-shirt was ripped off the back of a young boy, the plane's interior around the gap was torn apart to its core, and the surrounding seats bent and misshapen. There's just so many examples of Boeing planes malfunctioning in recent years as the quality of their builds have apparently diminished behind the scenes. So we focused a lot on that airline door being blown off. That was one we harped on a lot, and diving deep into how that happened and all of the negligence and just irresponsibility behind it. The main thing that contributed to that is they didn't put the fucking bolts in on it. Like, they didn't finish actually putting the bolts in on the door. It's from top to bottom, so much has gone wrong with Boeing. And it's led to concerned individuals like John Barnett, the Boeing whistleblower, coming out to tell the public, inform them about what's happening with Boeing and how dangerous it is.
Following this, Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun himself has encouraged customers to conduct their own reviews on 737.
Hey, we don't feel like paying for anyone to like check our shit. Can you guys just do it yourself and like let us know?
Just check the doors when you get on.
Encourages customers to check the bolts. Oh my gosh. Like, hey, next time you get onto one of our planes, just make sure all the screws are there.
Yeah.
You probably know where they're supposed to go.
Guys, it's probably fine, but don't take our word for it. In fact, we want you to do it yourself.
Yeah. And then in the court case, it's like, Your Honor, they checked the door. You know, it's really their fault.
The onus was on them.
Every
it's
single
like,
passenger is deputized upon entering a 737 as an official certified inspector.
I'm going to assume, because Boeing's customers are the actual airlines and not us individually, so
Yeah.
maybe
Right.
he meant the customers as in the airlines conduct their own reviews,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
even then,
I imagine.
yeah, that's still such a dodgy thing to say still, like, hey, you guys should check the doors.
It's
You know,
funny to imagine
we weren't
that, like,
looking.
when you sit down on a plane and the stewardess is giving you like the in-flight instructions, it's like, please ensure that all bolts and screws are in the correct place on the secret door you don't know you're sitting next to.
Yeah, when the oxygen mask dropped down during an emergency, they also drop an Allen wrench. It's like, okay, now everyone tighten your shit quick.
out of the 89 audits conducted by Boeing, only 56 passed. They
Yeah,
found
so,
that
like,
Dawn... What?
This
No
is
way.
A
No
ridiculous
way.
amount of failure rate.
What? They found that Dawn dishwashing liquid was being used as a makeshift lubricant during door fittings, and a hotel key card was used to check a door seal, which are not approved practices.
I can't
Bro!
believe I can't believe those aren't approved practices. Where does it say in the technical guidebook that you can't use Dawn dishwashing liquid? What are you meant to use then?
I love
Nothing's
it's
cheaper.
like the Air Bud argument. I mean, there's nothing in the rule book that says a dog can't play basketball. Why can't I use a hotel key card to check the door seal? John Barnett. He was an American-born aerospace engineer and longtime Boeing employee turned whistleblower. Born February 23rd, 1962 in Pineville, Louisiana, Barnett worked at Boeing for 32 years with a long stint from 2010 through 2017, working as a quality control manager for Boeing's 787 Dreamliner airplane at the South Carolina plant. As quality control manager, John was directly involved in ensuring each plane had passed supposed Boeing quality checklists, essentially being one of the few individuals who was innately aware and knowledgeable about Boeing's supposed commitment to producing reliable and safe aircraft. Due to stressful working conditions, Barnett's doctor advised that job-related stress would likely cause a heart attack unless he were to quit. He retired in 2016. Upon his retirement, John Barnett came forward to the press to make allegations about various claims of malpractice at Boeing. His initial claims first came to the BBC and included allegations that many employees were severely overworked and Boeing was not providing consistent and appropriate maintenance to the aircraft they were responsible for manufacturing. He also made the troubling evidence-based claim that the oxygen systems of the brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliner range of aircraft might be faulty or otherwise defective as a byproduct of lax maintenance at Boeing. He provided tests that showed a failure rate of 25% for the oxygen systems. In 2019, Barnett would appear in a New York Times article where he would go on to make further claims about metal shavings that posed a danger to the aircrafts themselves. Boeing denied all allegations made by Barnett. However, the FAA has since conducted several reviews that seem to corroborate Barnett's claims.
Yeah, 25% for the oxygen systems. So 1 in 4 people on those planes are not getting oxygen in the case of an emergency.
That's still a positive
And-
survival rate. That's acceptable losses.
It's not bad, and they wouldn't need oxygen anyway because the plane will be in a nosedive, so it's not gonna be
Yeah. What are they going to do? Tell someone?
Yeah, it's actually probably better for Boeing if no one gets oxygen, so that way
Yeah.
there's no squealing.
Have you heard that old conspiracy theory that the reason you brace with your head against the chair in front of you in a plane crash is to immediately break your neck?
Oh
So you
yeah,
don't
I
feel
saw
the
that.
pain of the crash or something.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
old
saw
Boeing survivors pose.
So then here's some more claims from Barnett. So, reprimanded for email usage, Barnett asserts that a senior manager reprimanded and downgraded Barnett for his usage of internal email services as a tool for expressing process violations in lieu of face-to-face conversations, which Barnett assumes had meant he shouldn't put problems in writing. This was seemingly a way for Boeing to avoid a paper trail of problems that Boeing would prefer swept under the rug, which is relevant with the Alaska Airline Flight 1282, which is the door blowing off, where Boeing apparently doesn't have any written documents pertaining to the faulty installation of the door module. Barnett also alleges that the manager pushed Barnett to get more used to working in the gray areas and help find a way while maintaining compliance. This speaks to a direct willingness and culture at Boeing where employees and managers are willing to sacrifice quality control to keep productivity high and ensure deadlines are met. Then there's also defective parts claims, where Barnett claims that a senior manager installed a defective, scrapped and dented hydraulic pipe in a plane. Barnett followed procedures and filed the complaint with Human Resources, which was unable to substantiate the claim after claiming they had followed through with an investigation. He also claims that he would go on to continuously raise issues of several more missing and defective airplane parts to management with the fear that they had either been accidentally or intentionally installed in aircrafts. Allegedly, management instead directed him to finish the paperwork on the missing parts without necessarily determining where they had gone.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
They fell into the
They'll
fucking
show
back
up.
rooms. Who cares? Just make note that they're missing. Barnett claims no further action was taken by managers. His claim that workers did not sufficiently follow component tracking procedures with the goal of preventing delays on the production line was backed up by a 2017 Federal Aviation Administration report that determined that at least 53 non-conforming parts were missing with the order that Boeing take remedial action. Barnett additionally claimed that they had to change the locks on the scrap storage section of the facility where faulty or defective parts were kept because people would continuously grab parts from the storage to install on planes.
Fuck.
You have
They
to
a
lock
real
up.
problem at Boeing.
You have to lock up the scrap shed because they keep trying to build planes with them.
Just fucking get rid of them, burn
Insane.
them. Stop
It's
this.
like-
Stop them
it's
from
like-
being installed in these planes.
It's like everyone's rats like running around scavenging. Like, no, stop. Get back.
Tony Stark built this Boeing in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
So bad.
Metal shavings. Barnett further alleged that he had discovered what he described as clusters of metal shavings that were erroneously left near electrical systems for flight controls in several 787s. The safety implications of this was that if there were shavings, the implications of this was if the shavings were to penetrate the electrical wiring responsible for powering the flight control systems, the results could have been catastrophic. So, in 2024, Barnett continued to issue warnings about Boeing and their work culture and vehicle safety, particularly following Alaska Airline Flight 1282. Barnett would go on to file an AR-21, which is a law that supposedly protects airline safety whistleblowers against retaliatory actions by employers, with the claim that Boeing had undermined his career because he had raised safety concerns at the Charleston plant. It's worth mentioning he was in an active lawsuit against Boeing, and he was in South Carolina, and on Saturday, he was intended to provide further answers to questioning, but did not show up to the downtown office of Boeing's defense firm for the final day of the 3-day deposition. He did not respond to calls over that day or the following. He was found deceased shortly after in his truck at a hotel parking lot from what Charleston County Coroner's Office described as a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Prior to his death, Barnett reportedly told a family friend that, "If anything happens to me, it's not suicide." Boeing responded to his death by releasing a statement that read, "We are saddened by Mr. Barnett's death and our thoughts are with his family and friends." Barnett's family claimed that he was looking forward to having his day in court and hoped that it would force Boeing to change its culture, though was suffering from PTSD and anxiety attacks as a result of being subject to hostile work environment at Boeing, which we believe led to his death. His lawyer told the CBS News that he was in very good spirits and really looking forward to putting this phase of his life behind him and moving on. We didn't see any indication he would take his own life. No one can believe it. Barnett was found inside his vehicle bleeding from his right temple with a silver pistol found in his hand and something allegedly resembling a note in the passenger seat. A groundsman told police that he had heard a pop around 9:24 a.m., but the rain had apparently muffled the sound. Barnett and his lawyers had filed their first complaints in 2017 in Barnett v. Boeing. It seems suspicious, to say the least, that Barnett would commit suicide when his case was finally in the final stretch. A family member told his lawyer, Turkowitz, what was written on the note, but that it didn't sound like John. Which I imagine it didn't.
It sounded like Harry Stonemason or whatever his name was.
Harry Stone Cipher.
Yeah, Stone Cipher.
I think the biggest thing that makes no fucking sense here is not only the timing of it, where he's like in the last phase of this, but also he decides to blow his brains out in the parking lot as opposed to his room. Why? That makes no sense. If he was going to kill himself, it'd likely be in his room, not in the fucking parking lot.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't think of that. Maybe he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to create a mess for like the house cleaners or something. And so he figured that his car would be the most...
Well, then he's creating a mess for the tow truck company and every human being that would be walking outside and might see a blood-splattered window.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why you would choose to do it in the car realistically.
Well, because he didn't choose to. It wasn't a suicide that he consented to. It does ultimately seem unlikely that Boeing would plan to murder a whistleblower, but only because there are many other whistleblowers and it would be highly impractical for Boeing to assassinate all of them. There's an interesting connection here where lawyers who drafted Jeffrey Epstein's 2008 immunity deal are also connected to those who created Boeing's, signed January 6, 2021, because Epstein needs to come up in every Red Thread episode somehow.
It's actually crazy that they are connected though.
So, with so many circumstances that serve as evidence of Boeing's malpractice, its failure of 33 of 89 FAA audits, the jammed rudder that caused a near miss in Newark, a wing coming apart on a San Francisco to Boston flight that was forced to make a premature landing, the use of dish soap and hotel room keys to check door seals, and of course, its failure to install a single bolt that would have prevented the door on the Alaskan Airline Flight 1282 from being ejected from the fuselage, it's impossible to believe that the company would be able to argue it hasn't broken the DPA. But as the DPA is written, the only actual requirements of complying with the DPA are that Boeing cooperate fully with domestic and foreign regulatory authorities in any investigations during the 3 years in which it remains in effect. It's essentially toothless. Yep.
Yeah, because the whole thing is just saying like, well, you can make mistakes as long as you let us look at them. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. Or you at least pretend to let us look at them.
Yeah.
Like with the footage being overwritten and all that.
Yeah, there's a piece of paper somewhere that says we looked at them. As long as that happens, we're fine. Yeah.
Boeing maintains that it has cooperated fully and transparently, but that it is unable to provide documents that the agency is seeking because it doesn't possess the documents and, indeed, no longer documents the repairs and procedures the agency is asking for documentation of, in reference to the installation and maintenance of the door. This is further evidenced and backed up by John Barnett's previous claims that Boeing has an internal culture that will aim to avoid any written record of faults and mistakes at any cost, choosing to lose documentation at any chance if it means they won't be held culpable with evidence pertaining to their increasingly lax quality control and maintenance standard. This has all led to the enormous shift in public perception of the company. The once famous phrase, "If it ain't Boeing, I'm not going," is no longer relevant. Indeed, I'll be more comfortable flying an Airbus plane for the foreseeable future when possible. That's Jackson.
That was meant for me.
I won't be comfortable flying any plane.
You'll be slightly more comfortable if you're on an Airbus.
And I don't even
it's
think
definitely possible.
This is another aspect of it. I don't think it is Boeing who would have carried out a hit. It's not like the boardroom got together and had a discussion and said we need to kill this guy. Could have just been a single individual within the company whose career would be threatened by this information coming to light. So he just has it taken care of without consulting anyone else.
Yeah.
My main hang up with the whole assassination idea, and I agree with you, Isaiah, mostly. I think it's definitely possible that it was something like that. My main hang up with the idea is just how much I think Boeing would have been aware how much noise would have been generated by an assassination on a whistleblower, and I think they would have known that they would have had that kind of perception if that were to occur. So I don't know if it was necessary on their end as well. Like was said in the document, there's a whole bunch of other whistleblowers currently from Boeing. They already have this reputation issue. I don't see why it would be necessary for them when they're pretty much invulnerable anyway.
Necessary is probably not the right word. I feel like the reason they would have killed him in particular is just because of how high profile he. Like, I don't know any of the other whistleblowers. I don't think many of you do, but Barnett was in like the news. He was bringing these problems to the public sphere. Like, hey, Boeing's shit is made out of shit. Like, they're using scrap metal. It's not safe. I wouldn't fly it. Like this kind of stuff. Like he was a pretty important figure in getting people more aware of just how like poor their quality was, and he had a very high ranking position. Like, he would be a very strong authority on just how bad their quality control is. So it's someone people would put their faith in to know these things. So I feel like he would be one of those people they'd be afraid of. Now, whether or not they'd necessarily be like, we have to kill him, I don't know. But maybe someone was panicking like, hey, if this keeps going, if he keeps dropping these, bombshells, we're going to suffer big problems. And maybe someone just, impulsively decided we need to do something about it and decided to kill him. Because it just seems highly unlikely that someone who's right at the end of like a very passionate fight decides to take their own life. And if it's not suicide, then another thing that's equally possible is maybe Boeing started putting out like outside pressure on him, like, hey, threatening his family, we'll do something to them. We'll make sure your family's in financial ruin. We'll make sure their lives are miserable if you don't stop this, that kind of thing. Like they could have
suicide.
Yeah, they could have like coerced him into it. Like they mentioned he was suffering from like PTSD and anxiety attacks. So maybe Boeing plays into that angle by making all of these like bigger threats that like make his anxiety even bigger and greater. So like even if they didn't necessarily get it like fucking Agent 47 out there, like I still think they could have driven him to it, like forced it upon him, which I'd still consider like a hit.
Yeah, that's definitely possible as well.
I'm not Scooby-Doo, but I'm still sniffing for clues, and I'm picking up a big whiff of something fishy. It's stinky out here. I've been smelling something foul. With all of these airplane freakouts that have been happening recently, I don't understand what is going on. It's getting wild. There have been an abnormally large amount of plane freakouts with passengers going berserk on airlines. It only has been like 2 weeks since this video hit the internet and took it by storm. This is the video of the woman who gets up out of her seat and says, "That motherfucker is not real," pointing to another passenger on the plane, and everyone turns their head to look, expecting to see like a T-1000 Terminator, but no one saw anything, and then she got off the plane. This photo here has actually become more famous than the fucking photo of the Wright brothers' first airplane. This is now one of the most well-known photos in aviation history, I'd argue. But anyway, this is not an isolated incident. When I talked about this when it first happened, there had actually already been another case of someone having a similar freak out where they got mad at a passenger they were sitting next to and then even tried to like charge the door of the plane to open it and get out. And now yet another video just came out from this year of another passenger having a very similar freak out, saying that a passenger on the plane was a robot and recharging their batteries and saying like the plane's gonna go down, and it was another like big scary moment on the airline. And this is 3 in a very short period of time when I'd never seen anything like this before. It's not like plane freakouts never happened. Of course, there's always been like irate passengers and having like meltdown moments on planes. But all of these are like sharing similar character traits with each other in terms of what they're freaking out about. And they're all over the globe, which is super odd. Not that I think there's any kind of grand conspiracy here, but it just makes me really wonder what's gone on to cause this level of panic on flights. Now, I do understand that maybe some of these are related to psychosis, which is a very serious thing, and that's definitely no laughing matter. That's very sad. But I do also wonder what else could come into play here, because it's not like all of a sudden psychosis is a new thing. So is it just we're recording more often and people are seeing it, being exposed to it more often, or if it really is increasing in frequency, and if so, why? I got really deep into this fucking rabbit hole for some reason, and it led me to something called railway madness. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. When the railways were still pretty new, there were reported instances of completely normal people going on railroad cars and freaking out and like getting violent and aggressive and just going ballistic while the carts were in motion. And then when they stopped, they went back to normal. So for a brief period of time, there was a number of people that thought trains were causing damage to people's brains and flipping this switch that had them go wild. Kind of like the plot to the first Kingsman movie, where like a certain frequency turned them into like absolute killing machines that were just fucking attacking each other. But of course this isn't a real thing. Trains weren't causing damage to their brain and turning them into like, you know, lunatics slapping each other around or anything like that. But as I understand it, there was just a very weird case of some people just going kind of nutty on trains and getting aggressive and freaking out. And now it seems like we're having something similar happen with airplanes in the modern age here. Now, of course, this is only 3 viral instances of it happening. That's not exactly scientifically significant. It's not indicative of some kind of pandemic sweeping the globe of people going crazy on planes or anything like that. But it is just a weird thing that I wanted to talk about because it's happened so many times in such a short period of time. As you discussed the clip of the woman freaking out on the airplane. Man, you are super late to that one. But you did just remind me of something else that happened on an airplane that Matt sent me earlier. Apparently, a guy had a big freak out on a plane claiming that he is stuck in a time loop. And that he experienced this 6 times already. That the plane was gonna crash. I don't know what's going on with planes though, but look, assuming this is a correct translation, they're a hollow earth inhabitant. I don't know if we're just filming things more often and crazy plane freakouts have always been common, or if this is just a rising phenomenon. But it is happening frequently now. What do you even say to calm them down? Don't listen to the
Time loop guy. We gave him way too much alcohol. Sorry. Please don't listen to time loop. Like, I don't even know what you say to calm everyone down. I'd be freaking out if this happened on a plane I was on. I'd be losing my goddamn mind. Like, all rational thought would go out the window. Be like, oh my god, there's a time looper in here. We're doomed. He's seen it all. Fuck. Oh god. I'd be running up and down the aisle. Oh my, yeah. I'd lose it. I'd fucking lose it. Well, he wasn't telling the truth. The plane landed. It didn't crash. But maybe he had just broken the cycle. Maybe that was the key. Cycles 1 through 5, he tried, like, very odd ways of fixing it, like flying the plane himself, all kinds of different things, erecting a force field, perhaps. And then on the 6th cycle, he tried just going full-blown Insano style, and that was the secret. Saved their life and not even respected. Heroes often aren't. What if he's actually telling the truth and we'll never know? What if the pilot came out and said that him freaking out made them slightly look to recalibrate? That's probably what happened, and then everybody clapped. Remember the guy who aggressively wanted to shake people's hands? That guy was cool. That wasn't a time looper. That guy was just a professional handshaker. He was a grip inspector, and he was going around making sure everyone's handshake was nice and firm. So it seems like there's only one write-up here from a reputable source. Footage from Chinese social media shows an airline passenger melting down earlier this year. He said he was caught in a time loop, and this was his 6th cycle. I'll just pull it down. The flight already crashed, and everyone died, but he's returned to this point and was warning everyone. He said they were destined for the same fate as the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. According to the passenger, one of the crew members wasn't human. She was a robot who was changing her battery, and that everyone needed a reset because their jobs are slavery and they were being paid money for dark reasons. The flight was canceled. Too many passengers were freaked out by the incident, and the passenger was arrested and sent to a medical facility. Oh, so they weren't even in the air yet. I thought this happened in the air. Also, this is so interesting. Another one of these "this motherfucker isn't real" moment. She was a robot who was changing her batteries. So yeah, maybe he really did save them. Maybe that plane would have went down if he didn't go fucking ballistic here. What's your ideal time loop scenario? I don't think there is one. A time loop is worthless. Time travel is what means the most. That's most helpful. There's no way to prove him wrong. You are correct. Clear sign of psychosis. Find it sad people are making this guy into a spectacle. Yeah, I think that's very clearly psychosis. What's interesting, though, is that this has now happened 3 times this year. Well, 3 times in the last month. What was the third one? The guy coming back from the rave, and he tried, like, opening the door after shouting at his seat sidekick. The passenger next to him started shouting and freaking out at him and then tried opening the door mid-flight. Millions of people in a time where everything gets shared seems about right. That's what I was wondering. If it's just a matter of we're all filming everything now, so the freakouts get eyes on them, and it's always happened since the history of aviation, or if there really is a big wave of mental illness coming through. COVID fucked up a lot of people. Yeah, maybe the isolation had some kind of huge effect on people's psyche. Perhaps. Manfred Kibbles, the dog food whisperer. And this was an early adopter of YouTube right here. May 30th, 07. Nice.
4 very, very high quality premium dog foods with us today.
Ooh, Gravy Train. I don't know that one. Does he eat these? Or does he just talk to him?
My puppy won't stop peeing.
Okay.
Well, you've come to the right spot to cure that. This is what YouTube's about. Eating dog food for 4,000 views 13 years ago. Describe it, please.
It's not bad. It actually smells like Captain Crunch
No way.
with a hint of tuna. Which is interesting because it's chicken flavor. But it smells like tuna and Captain Crunch.
I'm gonna have to get myself a can of Gravy Train to test that.
I'm looking. Okay, let's take a little nibble, huh?
Oh, my man! This is what YouTube is all about. Fuck yeah, eating dog food. No shame. This was before clout even existed.
Yeah, it's not very good.
That doesn't look too bad. I think Manfred Kibble might give that a passing grade.
Forkful here of Cadillac.
Yeah, it looks like straight from Gordon Ramsay's kitchen.
Okay, if this tastes half as good as it smells, I think I'm going to be a very happy man. There's texture. I can feel, I think it's little pieces
Some
of
say
corn.
Manfred Kibbles tries every dog food before it ships
really-
out to major
Really
retailers.
talking like a hamburger helper here. This is,
If Manfred Kibbles doesn't like it, it just doesn't make the cut.
Another bite if no one's counting calories, which I'm not. I was just on the South Beach diet, so I'm gonna splurge a little bit here today.
It can't be real dog food
That's
he's eating,
really
right?
good dog food.
There's no way.
We have.
But I can't even think of food that would look like this.
Because if you don't like chicken, you've got to like chicken byproduct. Looking at this, I don't know.
I
if you
thought
get a
dog
close
food
look
was
at it.
toxic to
Can you see
human
something you haven't
beings,
seen
but
with
maybe
other dog foods?
Manfred Kibbles
They
half
actually
dog,
put
half
every
man.
piece of dog food.
He's got the
in
body of a
a
man, but the
little
insides of a
mini
dog.
Okay, I'm debating if this is actually dog food because it smells like human food. This smells very, very good.
No, this isn't dog food.
Wow.
It keeps giving like a little transition when he picks up the plate. He swaps it out. That's my theory, at least. But who am I to question the supreme wisdom of Manfred Kibbles? That's real dog food. You can't fake that. I've seen that kind of dog food all my life. Never tried it, but I might now. This man's straight chowing down on dog food. How much dog food does this man taste?
Favorite dog food?
The Misadventures of Baby Josh. Does he feed dog food to Baby Josh? Because if not, I'm not interested. God, we'll never know because he stopped making videos 12 years ago. Go. I'll subscribe just on the off chance he continues the saga. That's my second subscription ever. On this account, I guess. One day he will make a triumphant return. Manfred Kibbles has to come rate modern dog food. Without it, how am I gonna know if what I'm feeding my dog is quality?
Sehr anziehend und sexy, wenn ich so sagen
I hate
darf.
planes.
Die Tragfläche an, was ich sofort vorstellen und werde total.
I mean, not to be racist, I haven't met your boyfriend here. Maybe he's a good plane, but
Eines
I just hate
zusammen,
flying.
denn, es
Not a
geht
fan.
nämlich,
Not a
heute
fan at all.
Stock, mein Schatz, wo ich
Ooh,
am
is this
Sonntag
like
die
porn?
Tragfläche streiche.
You might
Is the
be
plane of
surprised
legal
to learn
age? How old
that
is it?
29-year-old Michelle
Einen leblosen Gegenstand für.
Ugh.
It's not
Objectophilia,
just
I almost
any
forgot
inanimate
about
object
that.
tickles her fancy.
That's
She
up there with
is
foot
particularly
fetishism. It's
enamored
very,
with
very
a
popular.
specific model. During her first flight in the Boeing 737.
Oh, a
Ich
legendary
werde
flight to be
aufgeregt,
sure.
Weil ich jetzt in ein Flugzeug
That wasn't
steige
turbulence you were feeling up there, huh?
und besuche meinen Schatz und ich kann's gar
As
nicht
far as
abwarten,
Objectophilia
dass ich wieder
goes,
meinen
she
Wunsch
seems
habe.
relatively normal compared to the
Ja.
other ones we've seen.
Dann packen wir jetzt
The
mal
one that
zusammen
fucks the
die
Ferris
Sachen
wheel,
ein für morgen.
the one that fucks the picket
Und ganz
fence.
wichtig, es darf auch
the
nicht
one
fehlen,
that
ein
fucks
kleines
his
Geheimnis
car.
von meinem Schatz dabei sein.
So, Michelle has been granted some time with the Boeing 737.
Who's pimping out their daughter here for her?
Jetzt geht's
Or
los.
their son, excuse me. She booked quality time with someone's airplane? Lock that father up. He's running some type of objectophilia scam here with his plane. Whoring it out. She seems so happy-go-lucky about this.
Airport, the staff are here to escort Michelle.
Man,
to
the
the
booty
hangar.
call for a plane fetishist must be hard as shit to act on.
Right?
Oh,
Is that good?
Oh, she just got so wet.
We'll fix that for you. Okay? Fine.
I hope they put candles on the plane. Rose petals leading up to it.
yeah. Oh, my name is Michelle. Nice to meet you.
What a cool name.
Thanks so
Ulf.
much. I can't believe it.
Sounds like that's the name he chose for his Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Yeah, I'm Ulf, from the swamps of Mordogbach.
Oh my goodness.
This may look like an aircraft hangar, but this is about to turn into a goddamn X-rated porn set.
Beautiful.
Hope they bring out little, like, RC-controlled planes.
Ist einfach
Make it a
großartig.
giant
Also,
orgy.
Ich kann's nicht glauben. Das ist perfekt.
Yeah, you goddamn right, he's got a nice
Das ist einfach
cockpit in
über
there,
alles.
huh?
Das ist einfach super schön.
About to turn into some, like, stepson shit
Mein Wunsch ist es
when the
auch,
bigger
dass
plane
ich
comes
mit
out.
meiner 37 verheiratet bin.
Consent. And she gives consent. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Who says that the plane
Yeah,
consents,
I
though?
like her behind the plane.
Just because you're whoring out your plane here doesn't mean that it agrees to it.
Ah, nice.
Ooh, a backdoor reach around. Kinky on the first date. Ooh, a little rim job
Schön,
action.
alleine bei ihm sein zu dürfen. Ich liebe dich, Schatz.
You don't even know him.
She didn't even get to flick her bean in there. Give her some alone time.
gewesen.
She fucking flew here to make out with this plane. At least let her get some
Having spent nearly
orgasms
2
out of it or
hours with the
something.
plane, it's time for
What's up, everybody? It's Critical. I've been reading some news stories that I'd like to share with you all because I feel they would have a big impact on your life. So I'd like to just briefly touch on these so that way you can stay up to date and informed. Because knowing is half the battle. In Dallas, a man dubbed the Butthole Tickling Bandit, the Anus Avenger, the Rectum Ruffian, Anal Invader, the Colon Crusader, 007, the Butt Is Not Enough. The list goes on, and I must admit that list mostly contains names I've given him. But anyway, he's been captured and pictured here. He looks like Bert from Sesame Street. If Bert turned to a life of anus-tickling crime, he'd been terrorizing a small community for a few months. Almost all of his break-ins were into the homes of single men. Actually, all of his break-ins were into the homes of single men, and he would tickle their anus while they slept. Now, there's no mention of whether or not he did over-the-pants anus tickling, or if he would actually drop their trousers and tickle their bare asshole. It's a pretty important detail to leave out, so I must admit it's pretty shitty reporting. Now, I also have a theory. I don't think this man was targeting single men. I think he just so happened to keep breaking into single men's houses. I don't think there was any way he would know that he was breaking into a single man's house, so I think he was just ready to tickle any anus he came across, which makes him even more dangerous. So it's really a good thing they got him off the streets. This menace is now behind bars. So, Dallas residents can now sleep easier, knowing their asshole isn't going to be tickled unless they want it to. Netflix, the company behind popular online video game League of Legends, announced today that it'd be retiring its Dominion game mode, much to the dismay of the 5 players who still play it. A shirtless man was arrested for pissing on a fellow passenger and starting a fight between the two while on board an airplane. I think we've all been there though. We've all been in those heated arguments where we have the urge to whip our dicks out and start pissing on each other. This man just followed through on that primal desire, so I can't fault him for that. But what really fucking sucks about this is the man who just took the urine in the mouth, just right in the fucking chin, got arrested for it too. So that's just adding insult to urine. But I think this should really just serve as a lesson, a reminder, if you will, that there's 2 kinds of people in the world. The one who does the pissing, and the one who takes the piss. A brave reporter was stabbed just below the shoulder blade while giving a demonstration on a stab-proof vest. Not much to say about this one other than he clearly got stabbed in the back. The last interesting and important news article I stumbled upon is one only fucking Scooby-Doo could shed any light on. So there's some severed feet that have been washing up on Pacific Northwest shores, and no one has any real explanation for how they're getting there or why there's a severed foot inside of the running shoes they keep finding, and why it's always running shoes, and why it's usually right feet. But the authorities aren't willing to accept defeat, so they've offered kind of a logical explanation explaining it, but I feel as though they're off by a few feet on their explanation. It doesn't exactly cover all of the bases, because something very strange is afoot here. I myself have my own explanation, and it's a little, you're gonna have to bear with me here, it's a little far-fetched, but trust me, I know what the fuck I'm talking about with these kind of things. It's pretty clear that there's some type of spirit possessing these shoes and this severed foot, and I think just like the frog and the princess, it's just waiting to be kissed so it can come back to life and emerge as a beautiful pirate. I'm pretty sure I'm right on the money with that one, because you know what they say, if the shoe fits, wear it. And these are about all the interesting news articles I found today, so I just wanted to briefly give you all some important details with what's going on in the world, so stay informed.